Hello everyone, welcome to Death Mute Studio. In this video I'm going to be reviewing 1990's State of Grace. Let's have it. So State of Grace was directed by Phil Jones, who's best known for directing U2 music videos. His biggest films to date are probably State of Grace and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's 2006 film Gridiron Gang. Special shout out though, he did direct the short Punisher film called Dirty Laundry, where Thomas Jane reprised his role as Frank Castle. If you've not seen it, check it out. It's actually a lot better than Thomas Jane's first Punisher film. The link for that will be in the description below. And back to the review. So State of Grace stars youngish versions of Gary Oldman, Sean Penn, Robin Wright and Ed Harris. I'm not sure if Young and Ed Harris really go together. He just seems like one of them people who are born looking 45 years old and stay that way until 1 year before their death, and then they look like Lopan from Big Trouble in Little China. All that aside though, what an incredible cast, and it gets even more impressive when the supporting cast consists of John C. Reilly and John Turturro. Seeing all these heavyweight actors but so young, with the exception of Ed Harris, it reminds me of one of the greatest TV shows of all time. So State of Grace is about undercover cop Terry Noonan as he returns home to New York's Hell's Kitchen after a 10-year absence. He soon hooks up with childhood pal Jackie, played by Gary Oldman, who is involved in the Irish mob run by his brother Frankie, played by Ed Harris. Terry soon rekindles an old flame with Jackie's sister Kathleen, played by Robin Wright. Soon, however, Terry is torn between his loyalty to his friends and his loyalties to others. So State of Grace, it's almost a love letter to the old New York, far from the one we see today. As it was filmed in 1989, we get a look in New York of how it was. Grimy, dangerous, tough, and not the bright neon splash tourist attraction it is now. You get the sense that the film and the filmmakers knew that New York was going through this transition period. When you look at the film now, it wouldn't look out of place next to the 70s aesthetic of Midnight Cowboy and Taxi Driver. It has that grime to it that makes it feel genuinely dangerous. But there are moments of the film where it's beautifully framed and lit, so it perfectly balances realistic grime and stunning photography that wouldn't look out of place in an art exhibition. And this is all down to the stunning cinematography of Jordan Cronenweth. There's a prominent theme running through the film about change, progression, and the future looming over those who don't want things to change and happy with the status quo. For example, there are several negative comments about the rise of yuppie culture in New York and neighbourhoods not being what they used to be. Although at first glance you'd categorise State of Grace as a crime drama, the film clearly thinks of itself as a neo-western, with the theme of change and being left behind, like the old guns of the West becoming a thing of the past, and struggling to come to terms with not being relevant anymore and finding a place in new society. Kind of similar to The Searchers and Unforgiven. And I feel this is pretty much nailed on by the incredibly subtle score by the great Ennio Morricone, whose most famous scores come from the spaghetti western genre. And I think the final nail in the coffin of the great western homage comes in the final scene of the film, which I'll talk about later. It's great to watch a film from the past where all the actors involved have gone on to have incredible careers. And from the performances in State of Grace, you can see why. Everyone adds their talent perfectly with balanced performances. You can tell that the actors are bouncing off each other with great effect. The perfect example of this is with Sean Penn and Gary Oldman. Both actors perfectly capable of stealing the thunder from scene to scene, but Sean Penn gives a more subtle performance as Terry Noonan when he shares the screen with Gary Oldman, which perfectly balances out with Gary Oldman's character Jackie being the live wire of the group. The whole cast are great in their roles, and if you saw that cast list in a film today, you'd be mad not to expect awards to come from it. That being said, it's not all sunshine and farts for State of Grace. It has everything going for it to be fondly remembered as a classic. Great cast, amazing score, exceptional cinematography, but instead it's more known as a cult film. A lot of people cite that it got lost in the shuffle of crime dramas, as it was released the same year as Goodfellas, The Godfather Part 3, King of New York and Miller's Crossing, which would be fair to say that after that, audience would suffer a bit of crime drama fatigue. But when you look at all the films that came before it that year, all have auteurs at the helm with strong writing skills, although you could argue against that for Godfather Part 3. All these films had what State of Grace didn't: great scripts and strong directors. And I think that's State of Grace's major flaw. The film suffers from very poor and confusing character motivations and decisions. I understand that childhood friendship can be a strong bond, but Terry Noonan is an undercover cop. You'd expect his loyalties to lie within order and justice, to help protect law-abiding citizens from those who operate outside the law. But as soon as Terry meets up with Jackie, he somehow sympathises with his childhood mate who has a pair of severed hands in his freezer and kills people in cold blood. For me, there's no logical reason why Terry would think otherwise. Sure, there are moments where Jackie shows a lot of humanity, but he's clearly a sociopath that has no intention of leaving the life he's living. So if it's not Jackie, then maybe it's Jackie's sister Kathleen, played by Robin Wright, who's making Terry rethink his loyalties. No, because in a lot of ways she's renounced the family and the life of crime and has decided to work honest. I don't understand Terry's conflict here, and it's not just Penn's character. There's a lot of moments of over-the-top melodrama and leaps of logic from all the characters at some point during the film that just left me baffled. Even in the final scene, I was wondering if Terry's motivations were revenge or for a possible future with Kathleen, or both. I don't know, it just wasn't clear to me. But before I was scratching my potato-shaped head about Terry's endgame, the film does treat you to an absolutely exceptional final scene. So good, in fact, that it doesn't even need any music from Ennio Morricone, which is a very ballsy move that pays off. So the film ends with an old-school Wild Bunch-style bar shootout between Terry and Frankie with his goons. Stylistically, it owes a lot to the Wild Bunch. I'd go so far as to say it was a flat-out homage to the Sam Peckinpah classic. It's stylistic, ultra-violent, and really satisfying to watch, with nothing but the sound of gunshots, ricocheting bullets, and bodies falling to the floor. I'd say it was one of my favourite shootout scenes, along with Hard Boiled, The Way of the Gun, and, of course, the Wild Bunch. For me, that finale alone makes up for the dodgy script. So, in conclusion, the script is the weak link in the chain for State of Grace, but it has plenty of other elements working in its favour with the talent in front and behind the camera. Gary Oldman standing out so early in his career isn't a surprise at all. It's just something we come to expect and stand in awe of. The score is what you pretty much expect from a heavyweight like Ennio Morricone. It's beautiful, it's subtle, and it never tries to wrestle your attention away from the story. But what I found stood out most about State of Grace was its incredible cinematography. So that's my review of 1990's State of Grace. Have you seen the film? Do you like it? Do you agree with my review? Let me know on social media and the comments below. But most importantly, thanks for watching. Ta-da.